Yuji is a poor employee who works 20 hours a day. His life is as miserable as yours. But suddenly an event happens that changes the course of his life. Our story begins with Yuji, a monster tamer. Yuji moved to a new city called Vistan, where he decided to join the Adventurers Guild. Upon his arrival, he told the official that he had successfully collected a large amount of Daria flowers and had come to the city to sell them. He asked the accompanying slime to dig up the flowers, and when he did, everyone was shocked by the sheer quantity of flowers. The manager was summoned, and when he saw the large quantity of flowers, he told Yuji that even though he was an ordinary tamer, this quantity was too huge. The manager decided to take the flowers from Yuji in recognition of his efforts. Suddenly, another person entered the guild and shouted at the top of his voice, saying that more than 10,000 monsters are approaching the city and will attack us. Everyone gathered around, and the manager began to think about the next step. Yuji raised his hand and said he had an idea. He asked the slime to take out the dinosaur tooth he carried with him and explained that he could start a big fire with it, so they could trap the monsters outside the city without threatening its inhabitants. Although everyone was worried at first, they eventually agreed to Yuji's plan. Yuji ordered the hunters to stand on the city's borders to try to keep the monsters away. They succeeded in carrying out the spell and protecting the city from the impending attack. All the hunters started attacking the monsters and preventing them from approaching the village. Meanwhile, Yuji confronted the monsters from an elevated rooftop where several screens appeared in front of him. He began analyzing the city and estimating the number of monsters. Meanwhile, Yuji received a message from his assistant in the forest. She tells him that there is a mysterious person wearing strange clothes and carrying a magic crystal. He believes that this person is the reason why the monsters are appearing in droves. Yuji orders his assistant to attack this person and seize the crystal. Meanwhile, the villagers try to confront the monsters. Yuji succeeds in building a fortress around the town and uses his fire spell to kill the monsters. Everyone was amazed at the immense power of fire and how Yuji was able to execute it. After the first success of the skill, Yuji collapsed from exhaustion, but he continued to use his skill a second time to kill the remaining monsters. But then he lost consciousness. Yuji woke up to find himself on a bed in the Adventurers Guild. The official thanked him for saving the city, but when she entered the room again, he was nowhere to be found. Yuji went out with the wolves and slimes, telling them that he didn't want to attract attention in the city. He decided to head to another destination, the city of Kilia. At the same time, a group of people appear, planning something to do to destroy the adventurers. Among these people, a strange man appears, planning to accomplish a task before the moon changes color to blue. Next, we see Yuji wandering around the city of Kilia. He attracts the attention of the residents with a slime and a wolf, who seem to be strangers to the city. The slime tells Yuji that they are hungry and want to eat. Yuji goes to the town butcher and orders a large piece of meat for the slime and wolf. The slime's appetite for food surprises the butcher. Next, Yuji heads to the Kilia City Guild to join the adventurers there. At first, the clerk rejects his application because he is only a tamer and not a fighter. But after learning that he has experience protecting the city of Vestin, she decides to accept him as an official member of the guild. Yuji is introduced to the rest of his team. The first is Rhodes, an expert in the use of daggers. Then there's Tina, who specializes in the use of darts. And finally, Lissa, who specializes in spears. After the team introduces themselves to Yuji, it's Yuji's turn to introduce himself. He points out that he's a tamer, and Rhodes starts making fun of him. Tina and Lissa come to Yuji's defense, emphasizing that his role in any battle is important and that he is indispensable to the team. The adventure of Yuji and his team's search for the Earth Dragon, a mysterious and powerful creature, begins. Roles were divided among the team members. Rhodes in the front, Tina in the middle, and Lissa in the back. Yuji was the scout, and so they set out on their mission. Yuji was communicating with the wolf ahead of them, checking on the situation and making sure there were no threats. The slime asked if they would be able to overcome any monsters that threatened them, but Yuji said no, that their goal was to scout the area and assess the risks before they arrived. At that moment, the wolf spotted 5 wolf monsters 2 kilometers away from them. Yuji tells his friends the news, much to Tina and Lisa's surprise, as they didn't expect him to be able to scout so far away. Rhodes, on the other hand, scoffed at Yuji's statement and said, "Let's see if you're right." And so he started running to prove that Yuji's words were inaccurate. Indeed, Yuji's words were true, but they noticed that there were only 4 of them. Yuji told them where the 5th monster above them was, and Rhodes told them that he would kill it with the dagger. Rudis killed the monsters one by one, looking proud. Then they continued on their way. At this point, the slime said to Yuji, "Why didn't we kill the monsters before you arrived?" Yuji replied that he wanted to know the strengths and weaknesses of the team. When When night fell, they had to camp away from the main road. Tina was frustrated that they hadn't made any progress in reaching the Earth Dragon. Yuji asked, "Why did we choose a place away from the main road?" Rhodes replied saying that they chose it to avoid bandits. When Tina and Lissa asked Yuji, who taught him the skills of taming and exploring, Yuji tried to avoid answering and said, "I learned on my own," but they wondered how he learned it without a teacher or expert. Rhodes then decided that they should sleep. They divided up the watch roles among them as follows. Tina would watch first, then Rhodes, then Yuji, and finally Lissa. At this point, Yuji asked why this particular order. Rhodes replied that the heaviest load would be during the second and third observation period. So Rhodes would be in charge of the second period and Yuji after that. At this moment, Yuji felt that Rhodes was a magnanimous and wise man. Then, the scene shifted to Yuji in a forest. He was distracted and didn't know why he was here. He recalled his boring memories of when he was a corporate employee. Suddenly, the slime appeared in front of him and pointed to a place full of magical books. When Yuji opened the book, all the skills and spells went straight into his mind. Reading a page or two was enough for him to know the spells for water, fire, wind, and earth. Suddenly, he discovered that the number of slimes had increased and that they all wanted to be his friend. And when the slime opened any other book, all the information was transferred directly into Yuji's mind. They could all speak. They chanted his name, and suddenly Yuji woke up and realized he was in a dream. Slime talks to Yuji and tells him that Rhodes left during his shift. Yuji asks, "Did he run away?" But the slime replies, "No, I don't think so." In addition, the slime tells Yugi that Lissa and Tina are hiding in the forest. They don't seem to trust Rhodes, especially since he doesn't care about others, and the division of shifts seems to imply something sinister and conspiratorial on Rhodes' part. Tina tells Lissa that they may need Yuji's help. Lissa replies that they can handle Rhodes on their own. We see Rhodes in the forest and he senses movement, so he throws his knife at the movement. He realizes that there is no one there and that the knife hit the slime but didn't affect it at all. Afterward, Rhodes runs through the forest and avoids the traps set up for security. He heads toward a hut in the depths, and Lina and Lissa seem surprised at the destination Rhodes has chosen. When he enters the hut, he meets the man who appeared at the beginning. Rudis tells him, "I have a valuable catch. I have 2 girls and a boy, and you can leave the boy alone because the monsters will eat him." While talking to the man, Yuji overhears everything through the slime spying on their conversation. He realizes that Rhodes is the traitor and that this is the same reason the old team he was with disappeared. Rhodes tells the man that the 2 girls are now surrounded by them and are sure to fall into the traps surrounding the hut. But the man warns him and tells him that he must make up his mind before the moon changes to blue, as it will be a major disaster. The man's assistant taunts him and asks him how he can believe such superstitions. The man gets angry and strangles him, emphasizing that the prophecies hold the truth and that there is no lie in them. Meanwhile, Tina and Lissa are brainstorming on how to handle the situation. At one point, Rhodes hears a noise outside the hut. He goes to check and is surprised to find a strange monster they've never seen before. They realize that these monsters have fallen into their trap. They decide to retreat and not confront the monster. The monster turns out to be a wolf and a slime, who are Yuji's friends. Yuji continues to communicate with them remotely and uses an ice spell to freeze the hut, but the moon has already turned blue. Yugi meets with Tina and Lissa, and they tell him that the person who was talking to Rhodes is named Gelios. Yugi is surprised that they know his name and asks them about him. Lissa explains that Gelios is the most notorious bandit in this forest and that he is wanted. They realize that Yugi has more abilities than just scouting, and that they didn't realize his true value. But Lina and Lissa argue that since Rhodes isn't with them, they don't have a specialized fighter. Yuji insists that he'll handle it, and they agree to continue their journey in search of the Earth Dragon. Yugi and the slime would be the best replacement for Rhodes. Lina and Lissa decide to look for a suitable place to camp. At this moment, Yugi throws the slime up to quickly find the best place to camp. His abilities amaze them. He asks the slime to build a fire and set up the tent, and tells the wolf that he will take turns watching over the safety. Tina and Lissa are amazed and thank Yuji. As they sleep, Yuji thinks about Gelios' words about the moon changing color to blue. He wonders, does this have anything to do with what happened in Vistan? He wonders about the meaning of the word catastrophe that Gelios used. Yuji returned again with Tina and Lissa, still continuing to search for the Earth Dragon that they had to gather more information about. They felt a strong wind approaching them, and the slime told them that the wind was coming from a gully called Alot. aniplot. Legends say that the source of these winds is the earth dragon and the breath that emanates from it. They decide to go to the Alot Canyon, and Yuji notices that Tina and Lisa are overly trusting of him and the slimes. They say that any monster they see, the slime can kill it in an instant. It's something that makes Yuji remember his training days before he officially became an adventurer. When the teacher asked them to put their hands on a glass ball, the teacher was surprised when Yuji broke the ball with his magic spell without saying its name. He was also asked to use a spell against a large rock. At this moment, Yuji used a fire spell, and the teacher asked him how he did it without saying the name of the spell. It's a very high-level skill in magic, and it's sure to drain a lot of energy. So, it's best to say the name of the spell out loud, and when Yuji came to apply his words, he completely destroyed the rock, shocking the teacher and students. Yuji raised his hand to ask for something, but came back to reality, telling the slime that it's best to apply weak spells to the monsters they see, such as rock shots and small fireballs. Yuji discovered that this approach is very useful and easier. Then, moments later, they found themselves getting closer to the canyon. Tina and Lisa were surprised not to see any monsters in their path, and Yugi told them that the slime had wiped out all the monsters. Suddenly, the sky changed color and the moon turned blue. Tina and Lisa asked Yuji what caused the change, but he had no idea what was going on. Meanwhile, in the village of Kilia, we meet the village leader Ryard and the priest Style. The priest talks about the legend of the blue dragon, the great catastrophe that will only happen when the moon turns blue. It's an ancient prophecy in the Book of Legends. The blue dragon then appears, and the slimes see it a kilometer away from them. Tina and Lisa ask them if this is the earth dragon, but Yuji replies that it's bigger than that. Lena and Lisa suggest to Yuji that the monster belongs in the disaster category, and that going back to the village is the best option. They decide to go back via the canyon road because it is safer due to the strong wind in it, and this prevents the monsters from entering. However, Yuji puts a slime and a wolf in front of them to make sure there are no monsters in their way. Yuji continues to use simple spells such as stones and fireballs. When a monstrous bear appears, the wolf and the slime run away, but the slime manages to overcome the bear and reach the end of the gully, making it safe for the team. Lena and Lisa's confidence in Yuji's slime increases after they see the corpses of the monsters that the slime has killed. However, halfway through, they discover that the ground is cracking beneath them, and an earth dragon appears. Lena and Lisa quickly hide, and Yuji begins to confront the dragon using simple spells, but the dragon is unaffected by them. The dragon throws a huge boulder at Lena and Lisa, but Yuji manages to break it up before it reaches them. The dragon then turns into a huge ball and heads towards Yuji, but a strong wind disintegrates the dragon and blinds its eyes. When Yuji realizes the dragon's power, he uses a powerful fire spell and destroys the entire place, suddenly turning the dragon into a skeleton. Lena and Lisa are shocked by Yuji's power, as they believe that they didn't expect him to have such magical power. The team returns to the village and tells the secretary that they have accomplished their mission. The secretary asks them if they gathered information about the earth dragon. Then, the team responds to the secretary and tells her that they killed the dragon. This shocks the secretary, and she rejoices that they did more than what was required of them and captured Rhodes and the gang that was plotting against them. Ryard relays this news to the local authorities and is surprised by the strength of the team, especially Yuji. The team receives their reward of 14 million shekels worth of gold for their work. Afterward, Ryard tells Yuji that he wants to talk to him about something important and invites him to a meeting with the village officials. Ryard talks to them about the blue dragon and tells them that he has brought someone who knows more about it, Yuji. He asks Yuji to draw the shape of the dragon from memory to learn more about it, and Yuji uses the figurative memory spell and draws an accurate drawing of the blue dragon the slime saw. The audience is surprised to see that the drawing looks like the picture in Stahl's Book of Legends, which he says contains very little information about the dragon. The legends say that when the blue dragon last appeared many years ago, it destroyed an entire continent in just 3 days. Here, Ryard asks Yuji how the dragon in the legend was vanquished, because surely there must be a solution for this dragon. But Stahl tells Ryard that the only solution is a hero with unlimited magical power, the only person who can vanquish the dragon. Ryard suddenly remembers why the dragon appeared at this time, and it's because they didn't do the necessary rituals that they should have done a week ago. 30 years ago, there was a solar eclipse and a ritual was held in the castle, and the ritual was supposed to be repeated exactly 30 years later, but they didn't do it this time. This could be the reason for the appearance of the blue dragon. Suddenly, the sky changes color and darkens, and the slime tells them that the blue dragon has gotten bigger. Yuji tells them that it's really obvious that the darker the sky changes color, the bigger the blue dragon becomes. The officials panic and say that they only have 3 days until they all die, but Ryard encourages them and tells them that even if the monster they're facing is a mythical beast rather than a cataclysmic one, they should resist it and endure to the end, and that they shouldn't keep waiting for death to come to them. Afterward, it's lunchtime and Lena and Lisa talk to Yuji, informing him that they will be participating in a mission to kill the blue dragon the next day, since there is a large reward of gold for the participants, and emphasizing that they will be by his side. They trust Yuji and the slime 100%. At night, Yuji meets Steel, the old person sent from the castle to the village, and learns more about his character. He hands him a dagger made of an unknown material called the Dagger of Cathis, and tells him that no one in the castle knows how to use this dagger, and Yugi learns that this dagger relies on the warrior's magical abilities and is unbreakable. Style tells Yuji that the dagger now belongs to him, and asks him to use it in his mission against the blue dragon. Yuji sits on his bed at night and thinks about what will happen the next day, as he joins Kilia's village expedition to fight the legendary dragon. He feels scared and worried about the lives that will be lost in this big battle. Suddenly, the slime speaks to him and tells him that the dragon is much bigger and stronger than before. Yuji goes back to his memories of his training days when he was a young adventurer. He remembers the moment he raised his hand and asked his teacher, "What do you mean when you say unbelievable? Do you mean that my spell is weak?" The teacher replies that he meant that it is extremely powerful. Yuji regains confidence in himself and his ability to defeat the blue dragon. That same night, he, the slime, and the wolf set out to confront the dragon without telling the village. They see the dragon hovering and stationary, drawing energy from the changing colors of the sky and the forest to increase its strength and size over time. Yuji asks the slime to stay aside for now, and they are all willing to help with his plan. Yuji conveys the fire spell to the slime, but it does not affect the dragon. Yuji discovers the dragon's weaknesses with his magical power, knowing that fire with magic is his weakness. The dragon fires arrows of flame at Yuji, but he manages to block them with the fireproof armor spell. Yuji notices that the dragon is drawing energy from the forest to increase its size and strength. At this moment, the slime cries out to Yuji and asks him what to do now. Yuji decides to use the dagger of Kethis given to him by Pastor Stahl, and combines the fire spell with the dagger to balance the power of the fire with the power of the holy dagger. Yuji then tells them to descend to face the dragon properly, and while descending, they are exposed to rays of flame that Yuji manages to block with his armor. He then throws the slime up and transmits the shield spell to scatter the dragon with the slime. Using the enhanced jump spell, Yuji manages to reach the dragon, which is more than 50 meters high in the sky. He manages to reach it and activates the Fire of Doom spell with the dagger and strikes the dragon's blue eye, but the dragon hits him with a powerful blow that sends him crashing into the mountain. When he examines his condition, he discovers that his magical energy, known as mana, has dropped dramatically to a negative value, which means his health is now very serious, and Yuji blocks the dragon's fire with his shield. Yuji begins to think of another way to attack the dragon and decides to use a freezing spell and electrocute the dragon to numb it for a while. Yuji receives this news with joy and reassurance, and thanks Ryard for waking him up. Ryard expresses his happiness that the color of the sky has returned to normal and that the mission to slay the dragon has been completed with the help of a loyal fighter. Ryard's explanation that he left the village after his mission makes Yuji reflect on the nature of the mission and the need for cooperation and trust between team members. Ryard emphasizes the importance of mutual trust and cooperation between team members and reminds Yugi that he can count on the support and strength of the team. He suggests that in the future, when he has to face other challenges, he should consider asking the team for help instead of trying to go it alone. This conversation fosters teamwork and understanding among team members and encourages Yuji to appreciate everyone's role in the successes they achieve together. Yuji later receives the news that the expedition has been cancelled with disappointment, but understands that this is part of the adventurer's life and the risks that come with it. He wonders what's next and asks Tina and Lisa for suggestions on where to go next. Tina and Lisa suggest Ricardo as a possible destination, describing it as a city full of beautiful places and a warm atmosphere, and emphasizing that there is great fun and delicious food there. Yuji wonders about strange occurrences in that city, such as the changing color of the sky or the appearance of a mythical dragon, but Tina and Lisa reassure him that such things are rare and that they live in a world of relative stability. After saying goodbye to Tina and Lisa, Yuji watches the slime wandering around with them unknowingly, and Yuji confidently heads into a new future with the wolf and the slime, ready to face whatever may come. They were on their way to Ricardo City, the slime saying, "We are very excited to eat in Ricardo City," and Yuji is talking to himself saying, "Today I won't let people see the slimes fighting." Suddenly, one of the slimes says, "There's something important, Yuji, you need to see it now." A woman named Dreard appears. Yuji had saved and helped her before. She tells him, "Come quickly to the place where you killed the dragon. The place is now home to red mushrooms and blue mushrooms. I need your help collecting these mushrooms because I won't be able to collect them on my own. Yuji tells her, no problem, but can I know how you're going to use these mushrooms? Dreard answers, I can use these mushrooms to make medicinal and magical potions. For example, I can use red mushrooms to make wisdom potions and blue mushrooms to increase mana, magical energy, that can restore your energy after using your magical powers. Yuji is surprised by her words, as he is in dire need of those potions due to the lack of energy after facing the dragon. He tells her, I'll help you, but can you give me some potions? Dreard agrees. Yuji asks the slime to collect all the mushrooms. They were able to collect it all in seconds, and Dreard began to prepare the mana potion. To her surprise, it's not blue in color, because the water is not pure. Yuji tells her, no problem, we can distill the water by heating it and collecting the pure water after evaporation and condensation. We will have pure water, but it will take some time. In the meantime, Dreard says, this potion is like the color of magic stones. Do you remember when we first met? Yuji remembers the moment when he pulled her out of a coma after losing her energy, thereby restoring some of her energy and bringing her back to life. She thanks him for saving her life and tells him, there was someone who used a magic stone against me, which drained all my energy, and Yuji uses a spell to dispel the curse on the magic stone. Suddenly, ghosts and demons trapped in the stone appeared, and Yuji used another spell to destroy them along with the magic stone. Dreard thanks him for her help and says, I owe you my life. Yugi asks her, why do you think this potion is the same color as the magic stone with the curse? Dreard answers, I think it's because magic stones are made from the dragon pond, which contains tremendous power extracted from the places where dragons die, and this power makes red and blue mushrooms grow in those places. The dragon pond is neither good nor bad, but in the wrong hands, it can destroy entire forests. The slime tells Yugi that the water purification process has been delayed. Finally, Dreard is able to prepare the potions for Yugi. She tells him, these are the wisdom and mana potions I promised you. I will now return to the Drya forest. They say goodbye and part ways. Yuji continues walking to Ricardo City, but a fog appears in the air that makes them unable to see anything. Yuji activates the map and says to the wolf and slime, we'll reach Ricardo if we keep going in this direction. The wolf tells them, I smell humans nearby. After a few steps, they find themselves in a small village. The wolf and the slime ask Yugi, is this the city of Ricardo? Yuji answers, no, Ricardo is still far from here. They enter the village and are surprised to find all of its inhabitants looking at them with a strange smile, all of them without exception. The slime asks Yuji, why is everyone smiling like that? There's something strange. They meet the village leader who says to Yuji, welcome, we need to help you on your journey. You can't leave in this fog. How about spending the night here, and in the morning you can continue your journey? Yuji replies, no, thanks, I'll be on my way. The man replies, never mind, can I ask you, what made you come to an isolated village like ours? Yuji answers, I was on my way to the city of Ricardo, but got lost on the way because of the fog. As they talk, Yuji notices that the villagers are standing at the windows looking at them. The man apologizes on their behalf, saying, don't take them seriously. They rarely see a stranger in the village. When they resume their journey, the slime tells Yuji that the village is short on food, and no one can get enough of it. The villagers' smiles are something very strange. Yuji replies, indeed, there is something strange about this village, but let's continue on our way. We go back to the mysterious man talking to another person through a crystal ball. He says, don't worry about anything. He's just an adventurer who lost his way and entered our village by mistake. He's just a tamer, you don't have to worry about him. We're ready for anything. Tomorrow we'll harvest the dragon pool from the Delight Forest and finally cleanse the world. Yuji, the wolf, and the slime continue to climb the hill to finally reach Ricardo City. The slimes are excited, having been hungry and hoping to find delicious food there, perhaps a large grove where they can relax. They are shocked to find the city completely covered in snow with nothing visible. Due to the extreme cold, Yuji uses an insulation spell to keep his body warm. When they arrive at the city gate, the guards welcome them and inform them that the city has been covered in snow for 10 days and that these conditions are the first time in the city's history. The guards ask them, what brings you here? Yuji answers, I heard your food is something special. Yuji enters the city and remembers the guards' words. You've come to the right place. You should go to the Tiger Flame restaurant. As he wanders through the city, he notices that no one is out. All the windows are closed, and there is no sign of anyone. He finally arrives at the restaurant and is surprised when the sous chef tells him, unfortunately, we're closed today. Yuji asks, when will you be open tomorrow? She answers, we're always closed because food needs firewood, and all the townspeople are in desperate need of heat, so we had to give them our firewood. As she speaks, Yuji notes that the restaurant looks good and the food is delicious, and that anything must be done in order to eat there. Yuji says, so you want firewood so you can make food, right? She answers, yes, but even if you try to cut down trees now, it's no use because recently cut firewood can't be used for cooking because of the high moisture content. Yuji says, I'll see what I can do. Yuji goes out and asks the slimes what kind of tree can be used for cooking, but no one knows. He uses a spell to get a magic axe that can cut down a whole row of trees, can cut wood quickly and to the same size as firewood, and uses a spell to suck the moisture out of firewood to make it usable for cooking. Yuji returns back to the restaurant and presents a sample of firewood to the chef. The sous chef says, the firewood looks good, but I'll show it to the chef to decide whether it's suitable for cooking or not. When the chef sees the firewood, he says to Yuji, this firewood is too dry and I can't make any good dish with it. The firewood has to have a percentage of moisture for it to be ideal for cooking. At this point, Yuji uses slime to increase the moisture content of the firewood. The chef is astonished to find a piece of firewood that is perfect for cooking, so he tells them, now we'll turn on the oven. Yuji asks the slime to make all the firewood they have collected have exactly the same moisture content. The chef is amazed at the slime's ability and promises to make something delicious. The time comes when the food is finally ready, and when Yuji tastes it, he feels like he is eating something unprecedentedly delicious, finishes the food in a matter of seconds, and says to the chef, I want to eat this same food every day. The chef shocks him and says, actually, this isn't the best I can offer. You still haven't tried my most delicious dish. Yuji says, I'll be here tomorrow to try your dishes. But in the meantime, the chef's assistant says, we can't use all this firewood just for cooking, because the townspeople will need it to heat their homes. Meanwhile, Yuji promises that he will provide other wood for the townspeople, and then heads to the city's adventurers guild. She finds that all she is asked to do is collect firewood, without encountering monsters or any other task. Yuji is asked to register as a wood gatherer, and the clerk gives him details about the wood needed and suggests that he visit a wood gatherer named Botka for more information. When Yuji meets Wotka, he tells him that there is a huge shortfall in the city's wood supply, as the city needs 5 tons of wood per day, and they are unable to produce that amount daily. Wotka points out that other villages have offered to help, but their wood production is not enough to meet the city's needs. Yuji then asks about the village he passed on his way, and Wotka tells him that the village has been abandoned for a long time, and that it's hard to imagine that they would have offered to help. Wotka then encourages him to get to work and see what he can do, warning him not to overexert himself because he looks weak and unable to cut down trees on his own. After Yuji uses his magic axe to chop down an entire row of trees in an instant, the soldiers and Wotka are shocked by his superhuman abilities. Yuji asks Wotka exactly what size firewood is needed, and plans to cut the trees into specific lengths and divide them into specific parts. After Wotka returns early to the Adventurers Guild, the staff is amazed at the work he did today. Wotka tells the employee that the credit for this work goes to a newcomer in town named Yuji, who has extraordinary abilities. Yuji manages to produce enough firewood to meet the city's needs for 3 full days, and everyone is amazed when they see the slime extracting moisture from the wood. When Yuji confirms that he has collected enough firewood for the city for 3 days, everyone is shocked by his superhuman abilities. Yuji tells him to keep working and bring more firewood to the city, and indeed, Yuji manages to collect more and more firewood. Yuji receives a payment from the Adventurers Guild for his efforts, and Yuji sleeps with the wolf and the slime after a day of hard work. The next day, the chef presents Yuji with a new meal, and the slime and wolf are excited to taste it. Yuji enjoys the meal and is ecstatic about the great taste, considering it the most delicious thing he has ever eaten in his life. Yuji thanks the chef for the food and orders another dish, but the chef tells him that this meal is not his best because he lacks some of the herbs needed for his recipes due to the presence of monsters in the field. Yuji decides to go out and confront the monsters that are preventing the chef from obtaining the herbs needed to cook his meals. After Yuji arrives at the herb field, he divides the slime into 2 teams to confront and eliminate the monsters surrounding the field. During their journey, the slimes encounter the first monster on their way. They asked Yuji to send a spell to help them fight the monster. Yuji activated the fireball spell and the slimes hit it, killing the monster. The slimes continued to search for monsters in the forest and kill them one by one until they came to an unexpected surprise. After that, Yuji and Dreard went to investigate and found a magic ball that was blue in color. Dreard explained that the shape of the ball resembled cursed magic stones, which absorb magic and mana from wherever they are found. This is the possible reason behind the cold snap that hit the city. Magic balls, like the one found, absorb magic and energy from the place where they are located. If the energy in a place is low, cold appears. Conversely, if the energy is high, the place will be warm or hot like a volcano. Yuji asks Dreard how the magic balls are made and whether they exist on their own or as a result of supernatural intervention. Dreard explains that someone did the work. Yuji performs a spell spell to purge the ball of the curse and rid it of magical power. He then asks the slime to search for balls similar to the magic ball. He realizes that there are 108 balls in the forest surrounding the city and that they are placed in a certain way, where he thinks the center will be the key to solving the issue. When he reaches the center, he notices that there is nothing that can be used to solve the curse. He suspects that there is camouflage and misdirection by whoever placed the cursed balls in the forest. He sees this as part of a larger conspiracy, as the forest has been rebuilt this way. Once inside, Yuji decides to use the fire spell at full power to dig the place to a great depth. At this point, they discover a hidden underground entrance. Yuji excitedly says, "Let's see what's inside. Let's see what's inside." Slime notices Yuji's excitement and says, "Yuji seems to be very excited." Yuji replies, "I want to save this city for a reason. I want to save this city for one reason only. Their food is delicious." When they get down to the entrance, Yuji asks the slime to search the place and look for anything that can help them break the curse on Ricardo City. Yuji suggests that Dreyard return to the forest to continue the search there. Yuji begins to explore the place and discovers huge power generators and advanced technology. He discovers that the generators are using the energy from the magic stones to spread the curse in the city. Suddenly, they notice two workers on the scene, who are shocked that the equipment has suddenly stopped working. They believe a meteorite is the culprit and decide to report the incident to Mr. Kafir as soon as possible. Yuji realizes that Kafir is in charge of the magic stones, and assigns the slime to follow the workers while he and the wolf continue to follow them from above. Yuji and the slime make contact, and Yuji reports that the workers have gone through the door and locked it, and that they can enter through a side door that appears to be locked. When the slime arrives, they are surprised to find a completely closed gate with handles on the left and right sides of the gate. Yuji advises the workers to open the two handles at the same time to open the gate, and his plan proves successful. The wolf and Yuji notice that they are now on the same level with the slimes according to the map, but the slimes have an additional issue as they encounter a dead end and have to use a ladder to climb to the roof of the building. As they climb the ladder, Yuji notices that the road ends at a ledge, at which time the slimes find themselves in the old village, whose inhabitants were strangely smiling when they first entered the village on their way to Ricardo City. Yuji confirms that the village is not as normal as he expected, and the slime hides to observe the workers talking to the sentry. The workers point out that the equipment was damaged by a meteorite hitting the lab. As soon as Yuji sees the scene that the slime is watching, he realizes that the people in the village are the Blue Moon of Freedom, who believe that the entire world is in a state of sin and must be purified and killed in order for the world to be in a state of freedom. Yuji learns that this group has chosen the abandoned village as their sanctuary and center of operations, and that they are the ones who built all the underground machines to use the magical stones to curse Ricardo City and cause the cold wave. When Xavier realizes the issue, he gathers all the gang members and orders them to disperse into the forest and collect the 108 magical ores. They see these magical ores as their only hope to recover and reuse the equipment again, by using them as magic stones that can be used to spread the curse to neighboring cities. At that time, the sentry tells the gang to act quickly and not to tolerate anyone seeing them in the forest, which means killing any witnesses on the spot. When Yuji hears the sentry's words, he orders the slime to move in, search the forest, and arrest anyone who belongs to the gang. He also asks some of the slime to keep an eye on the Blue Redemption Moon group still in the village to see what they are up to. Slime realizes that there are only 5 members of the gang still in the village. While they are planning, some of the slimes are still underground in a strange-looking and strangely lit library. Yuji tells them to collect all the books and documents in front of them, ready to leave. When the slime catches any of the gang members in the forest, it turns out that they were prepared to commit suicide using the poison they were carrying in their teeth, in case anyone found out about their plan. Yuji orders the slime to capture all the gang members to save the innocent ones. At the same time, the underground slimes run into trouble as they can't get past a certain gate. Yuji comes up with an idea that opening the gate may require activating the candles connected to it. He asks the slimes to distribute themselves among the 5 candles and light them at the same time. The gate opens, and they are surprised to find a treasure trove of gold and jewelry collected by members of the Freedom Moon Gang. At this moment, the slime alerts Yuji that someone is coming. When the person enters, the gate is open and there is nothing inside, which means that their entire fortune has been stolen. The person immediately informs the village sentry of what they saw, and everyone realizes that this event was not caused by a meteorite or any other natural event, but was the result of a deliberate act. The village sentry is frustrated that all their secrets and riches have been stolen and asks why they haven't tried to kill yet. The village sentry explains that the person who entered most likely knew about their most powerful weapon, the flame of purification, which is only activated when all the villagers are dead. For this reason, they have not been killed yet. After Yuji hears the words of the village sentry and sees that they are preparing to activate the purification flame, he begins to feel shocked and confused. He realizes that they are talking about using a deadly weapon to wipe out the entire population of the village. Immediately, Yuji orders the slime to retreat quickly and uses a spell to protect them and get them safely out of the village. Yuji activates an anti-magic spell next to the shield spell to protect the village. However, in the next moment, the flames of purification is activated, resulting in the death of all the villagers. The situation becomes extremely critical, and Yuji feels despair and sadness at the loss of innocence. The ground suddenly split in half, and the cleansing flames came out. Unaware of his true strength, Yuji relied on his defenses to contain the blast of flames. However, he soon discovered that his defense was far too weak to resist the purification flames, and his armor began to crack. Beams of flame splashed out of the armor, and the explosion was about to overwhelm Yuji. The slimes were horrified by the sight, screaming that the black fire would finish them off. Here, Yuji had an idea. He faced the fire with ice at the same time as he chanted the curse-dispelling spell. Yuji formed a united matrix of ice and mantra, trapping the blast and destroying it. While his mana was collapsing more and more, Yuji continued to apply magic to trap the flames. His magical power weakened over time, but he was finally able to contain the purge flames and protect Ricardo City and its inhabitants from destruction. Yuji wondered how he was able to hold out so long against the flames when his mana was negative. At that moment, the wolf emerged from underground, having been hiding and afraid of the flames. The slime laughed at him and said to Yuji, "That's how you'll be deprived of the chef's food today." Finally, Yuji returned and the townspeople welcomed him back and reassured him. It was because of the 2 explosions they had heard about that day. They asked him, "Where were you today? Have you been killing monsters in the herb field all this time?" Of course, Yuji knew that they meant the explosion he had caused with the fire of doom on the underground lab, as well as the explosion of the purification flame that had just destroyed it. He certainly didn't tell them that he had done all that. As residents talk about the explosions and conclude that they may be the result of a meteor shower, the talus finally begins to melt, raising their suspicions about the connection between the meteors and the melting of the talus. The city gradually returns to normal, and people are relieved after days of controversy and anxiety. In the early morning, Yuji finally breathes in the fresh, warm air he has been missing since arriving in the city. He feels at ease for the first time since his arrival. 2 townspeople invite him to a party to celebrate the city's return to normalcy. Yuji participates in the party as a guest of honor and is honored for his great efforts in helping the city's residents during the crisis. People recognize Yuji's role in providing firewood and warmth during difficult times and thank him for all he has done for them during this difficult time. As Yuji sits down to eat, he receives thanks from the residents and the cook's assistant for his contribution to clearing the field of monsters. They express their gratitude for all the efforts Yuji has made to help them. The chef demonstrates a special dish they have prepared using the herbs the residents have gathered from the safe field. Yuji enjoys every moment and takes the first spoonful of the dish, and at this moment he is overjoyed and feels something he has never felt before. Yuji looks smiling and happy even though he's passed out. Everyone is amazed by his happy facial expressions and wonders why he is so happy even in his comatose state. Of course, Yuji is happy that he is finally tasting the best food of his life and expresses it with his bright smile and deep happiness, much to the amazement of everyone at the party. After Yuji wakes up, he realizes the importance of the documents that were in the Freedom Moon's library. He asks the slime to extract all the books and documents, but is shocked to find that the ink disappears as soon as he takes a look at them, indicating that there is magic preventing access to them. However, Yuji discovers only one document where the ink does not disappear, and when he investigates its contents, he finds that it contains a list of people who need to be assassinated. Yuji realizes that he must act quickly to prevent these heinous acts from happening. At the same time, 2 gang members are spotted leaving a fortress after killing a number of people. Yuji is increasingly needed to tackle these crimes and stop the chaos they are trying to create. With Yuji's name on the paper as one of the candidates for assassination, danger begins to loom over his life. 2 members of the Blue Redemption Moon gang watch him, debating his fate and whether or not he deserves to be killed based on how much of a threat he poses to the gang. Yuji appears with Slime and Wolf after they leave Ricardo City, where Slime and Wolf express their sadness for the city and the loss of the delicious food that the chef used to serve them. Yuji is nervous and anxious to face the threat of assassination assassination, but realizes that he has to stay calm and must remain vigilant. He will need to act wisely and quickly to protect himself and the lives of the residents from this potential danger. Yuji flashbacks to the moment he leaves the city, where he hands his papers to the secretary of the Warriors Guild and asks her for a suitable place to go. The secretary suggests the city of Bugenia, which is famous for its monster armor, and the blacksmith's workshop of Jagel, which is considered the best in armor manufacturing. The secretary gives Yuji the address of Bugenia and describes how to get to Jagel's workshop. Yuji wishes he could find in Bugenia the famous food he enjoyed in Ricardo. While Yuji is resting under the tree with the slime and the wolf, two gangsters are watching them, planning to assassinate him at this moment. The girl expresses concern about the rising death toll in the surrounding cities and emphasizes the importance of not drawing too much attention to their gang. The Knights Guild decides by mutual agreement that they will keep a close eye on Yuji throughout the day to determine how much of a threat he poses to them. In the meantime, Slime continues to relay all information and discussions between the guild members, allowing Yuji to fully understand the situation. Yuji considers that it was the right move to leave Ricardo City, as it belongs to the Blue Redemption Moon Gang. Yuji reveals that he knows the members of the Freedom Moon Gang are skilled swordsmen, and recognizes that they pose a serious threat with their weapons. Slime suggests killing them immediately to eliminate the threat, but Yuji points out that such a decision would make him a prime target for the gang, making him even more vulnerable. Yuji thinks the best option is to find a way to show the gang members that he is not a threat to them, thus removing him from the assassination list. After that, he can think about how to get rid of the gang without attracting attention. Yuji begins his journey to the city of Bugenia, where he visits Jiggle's workshop. The members of the Freedom Moon Gang agree that Yuji seems to be a pro at taming monsters, especially after he decides to go to Bugenia City to buy armor for his monsters. They consider Jiggle to be the best option to get these armors, but they notice that Yuji doesn't have enough money to buy the armor, which leads to him being fired from the workshop. Afterward, they witness Yuji in an awkward situation when he collides with another person and notice his lack of character in this situation. They decide to steal his money while he is buying food for himself and the slime, with Yuji later discovering that his money has been stolen. The gang begins to wonder about Yuji's identity and how he continues to tame and has no money. They observe Yuji using slime monsters to collect the money that litter the floor, much to their surprise. They wonder if this is all a tamer can do, and if Yuji is really a tamer. To continue the charade, Yuji drinks alcohol, which makes him appear careless and uncaring, deliberately misrepresenting himself to them so that they think he poses no danger to them. As the slimes eavesdropped on them as they talked, Yuji knew that they still weren't convinced that he posed no threat to them. So, Yuji went to the Bugenia City Knights Guild to apply for a mission to kill bull monsters. They told each other that this mission was easy rather than difficult, but at least it would show them Yuji fighting, and they would be able to make up their minds after seeing his fighting style. Yuji went to fight the bulls, while the gang hid and watched him. Yuji said to the slime, "Stay to the side, because we don't want to show our true strength to the gang watching us. We want to convey to them that our fighting skills are average and ordinary, and that we are not a threat to them." Yuji asked the wolf to fight the bulls, because Yuji is basically a monster tamer who fights monsters with the help of creatures they've tamed before, including the wolf. Yuji was horrified at the sight of the three bulls in front of him, but was shocked to see that he easily defeated one of them without any movement. Yuji remembered when he first saw the wolf and wanted to attack him and the slime, but he managed to restrain it with a magic spell. Yuji also made a spell to telepathically communicate with the monsters so that they would understand his words. The wolf apologized to Yuji and begged him not to kill him. Yuji said to him, "Would you mind being one of my monsters?" The wolf agreed to be friends with Yugi and the slime. Yuji said to himself, "Clearly the wolf is stronger than I thought." The wolf attacked the other two bulls and killed them easily. At that moment, the gang team talked about the wolf's strength and that Yuji was obviously a master at taming beasts and was able to teach the wolf martial arts. Yuji was annoyed that the plan didn't go as he had planned. He used a magic spell to make the bulls much stronger than their previous state, so that they could defeat the wolf or at least equalize their strength. They attacked the wolf a second time with all their might, and the wolf succeeded in killing them all. But Yuji used a spell to bring the monsters back to full strength. The wolf was annoyed that his strength was greatly weakened. At that moment, the gang team changed their minds about the wolf and said that his power was not as strong as they thought, and that Yuji was just an ordinary tamer. Yuji was happy that the plan was back on track, but he was shocked to see the wolf ready to fight against the bulls again. Yuji used a magic spell that multiplied the bull's strength many times over, but he was shocked to see that he had overestimated the strength of the bulls. He decided to use the same spell on the wolf to make the strength equal. But the wolf rejected Yuji's words and and told him that he wanted to fight the monsters by himself. The wolf attacked the monsters with all its might and managed to finish them off with difficulty. The gang said that the wolf wasn't strong enough because it had defeated the bull monsters after suffering for a long time. Yuji was happy that his plan had worked, but suddenly one of the bulls woke up and attacked Yuji. Involuntarily, he prepared a spell and summoned a magical sword to kill the beast. The gang was shocked at what they saw. They wondered how a monster tamer could summon a magical sword. They realized that Yuji was no ordinary monster tamer. Yuji didn't know what to do, fearing that his plan would fail now that he had revealed part of his power. But he pretended to them that he had summoned the sword spontaneously and unintentionally. He wanted to make them feel like he was just a novice. In the end, they were convinced that Yuji didn't know what he was doing and that his summoning of the sword was just a coincidence. They decided that Yuji was no threat to them or the blue moon of redemption, so they let him go. Yuji was finally relieved that he was able to get rid of them without drawing their attention to him. But the slime told him that they were talking to each other about a new assassination plan. At night, Yuji watched as the gang members talked to the leader of the Blue Redemption Moon Gang via the magic ball. The gang members said, "We spent the whole day watching Yuji, but we realized that he poses no threat to us." The leader told them, "Okay, but now we're facing a major crisis, as the abandoned village has been completely destroyed and the purge flame has been activated. This means that there is a conspiracy that someone has organized against us and destroyed our plan in the abandoned village." They asked him, "Is the person who did this our next target?" The leader answered them, "We don't know who he is yet, but it is clear that he is a first-class knight. What is important now is that you focus on your target." The leader bid them farewell and wished them success in their mission. From their words, Yuji learns that their next target is to assassinate Old Man Stall, whom he had given the dagger to earlier to face the legendary Blue Dragon. Immediately, Yuji transferred the freeze spell to the slime spying on them, freezing them before they could attack the slime. Yugi wondered, why is the Freedom Moon Gang targeting Old Style? But he was reassured that he had removed the danger before they killed him. The next day, Yuji went back to Jiggle's workshop. The worker told him, "Aren't you the one who came in yesterday and didn't have any money?" Yuji told him, "I have money now, and I want armor for my monsters." The laborer said, "You mean slime armor? Get out of here. Jiggle's armor will never fit a slime." Suddenly, Geigel appeared and said to the worker, "Aren't you the one who rejects the customers yourself? I'm the one who decides whether my armor fits the slime or not." Yuji then asked, "Are you the tamer of these slimes?" Yuji answered him, "Yes." J-Gel began to blame the worker, saying, "These are the strongest customers I've seen so far, and you refuse them." Yuji thought to himself, "It's obvious that Giggle appreciates us at first sight. Unfortunately, I don't have armor for monsters as powerful as slimes right now, but I can make special armor for slimes," J-Gel told him. Yuji agreed, but Giggle said, "But there's just one catch." J-Gel looks at the volcano next to the city of Bugnia, where a huge monster appears amid the lava. Yuji says he'll need jewelry mined from the red and blue dragons that live on the volcano. This is because slimes and wolves are some of the strongest monsters and need armor that is strong enough to be effective against them. These jewels are the only solution, but Jiggle warns him that blue dragons are very difficult to fight and no one in their city has ever defeated one. "Anyway, I'm ready to make the armor you want as soon as you bring me these dragon jewels," J-Gel tells him. Afterward, Yuji goes to the Knights Guild in Bugenia City and asks the secretary for all the red and blue dragon quests to defeat them. The secretary was shocked by Yuji's words and asked him, "How are you going to defeat all those dragons when you're just a monster tamer?" Yuji answered her, "I will use magic against them and I will be able to defeat them easily." Here, the secretary told him, "You can't use magic against them because the jewels in their bodies make them resistant to magic. Normal attacks won't affect them because their skin is thick and hard, but their weakness is water. But it is very difficult to carry water and lift it to the volcano." Yuji told her, "What the heck? They can use magic to make water." The secretary got angry and said, "The amount of water you're going to prepare will consume a lot of magic, and there's no one who can use magic that powerful." Yuji answered her, "Don't worry, I have enough magical power to summon water. There's another issue too. He has to cross a river to get to the volcano. This river has a monstrous man-eating fish called a piranha. It swims on the surface of the water, and if it catches you, consider yourself an easy meal for it." Yuji told her, "I want this quest as well as the dragon quests." When Yuji arrived at the river, he found the slime talking to another red-colored slime. Yuji was surprised by the red slimes, revealing their identity as tamed monsters like the slimes. The red slime asks them about the volcano's activity, to which they reply that it is a dormant volcano. They decide to help Yuji and the slime, and finally reach the river where the secretary told them the piranha was. But Yuji didn't notice anything on the surface depths of the water and couldn't see any further. He asked the slime if they knew how to swim, but they didn't. Yuji used a net-shaped spell to lower them into the water and look for the piranha. There, they noticed a deep hole, so one of the slimes went to explore it, and one of the red slimes went to help him. Suddenly, they both ran away and warned Yuji and the slime, and the piranha appeared. Yuji used the slime's net to catch it, and succeeded in getting it out of the water, but it managed to untangle the net and free itself. Yuji used the freeze spell, and they thought they had killed it, but it managed to break the ice and attack them again. At that moment, Yuji used the fire spell and managed to finish her off. Yugi crosses the river with the slimes and the wolf, and they see the dragons surrounding the volcano. The slimes are afraid to face the dragons and are terrified because their mother used to tell them stories about how powerful and dangerous dragons are. Yuji is surprised to learn for the first time that the slimes have a mother. Yuji tells them to go fight the dragons, but finds the slime standing still. Yuji decides to face the dragons alone, faces a dragon and uses a water spell against it. Yuji discovers that the secretary's words are true, and that the dragon's weakness is water. After the dragon dies, a red gem comes out of it, the same gem that Jiggle talked about. When the slimes see the dragon dead, their confidence is restored and their fear of dragons disappears. They decide to help Yuji collect the jewel, and Yuji transfers the water spell to them, giving them the power to defeat the red dragons in the volcano. Suddenly, Yuji saw the blue dragon, and it was clear that it was much stronger than the red dragons. Its body was huge and much larger than theirs. Yuji asks 10 slimes to surround the dragon, then transmits the water cannon spell to all of them. But the water didn't affect the dragon, so Yuji used the mid-level ice spell, but the dragon was able to break the ice easily. Yuji orders the slimes to challenge in one place, then transmits the high-level freeze spell to them. A huge ball of ice forms around the dragon, but due to its great body heat, it manages to melt all the ice. Afterward, his power collapses and he dies, and a blue gem emerges from his body. Yuji tells himself that this gem will definitely give them much stronger armor, and he says to the slime, "Let's complete our mission and kill all the dragons on the volcano." Yuji spends the rest of the day transferring water spells to the slimes. At the end of the day, Yuji presents all the tasks he has completed. The secretary is shocked to learn that a monster tamer did it all. He killed 202 dragons and also killed a monstrous piranha. The secretary thanks him for his great service to the city, and Yuji tells her that the piranha wasn't swimming on the surface, but was hiding in a deep hole, and he lured it to the surface and killed it. The secretary promises to correct the information she has and write it down on a form to inform neighboring cities of the new information. She thanks him again. Afterward, Yuji goes to Geigel's workshop and asks about working hours. Geigel's assistant is shocked to see Yuji back so quickly. On the same day, Yuji shows him the blue dragon gem, and Gajeel wonders how Yuji managed to kill a blue dragon on his own. Gajeel says to Yuji, "Looks like you're stronger than I expected." He also tells him that with this gem, he will be able to make the best armor for the wolf. Gajeel is even more shocked when Yuji presents him with another blue dragon gem and asks him to make slime armor out of it. Gajeel and his assistant are amazed at the two jewels, and Yuji tells them that he also brought jewelry from red dragons. The slime pulls out hundreds of red jewels, and Gajeel says, "These jewels are unbelievable." Yuji asks Gajeel what he means, and Gajeel replies, "This jewelry is very pure and the material is high. I can make the strongest armor I know how to make with this jewelry." Yuji says, "I'm counting on you." Gajeel orders his assistant to turn on the furnace to melt and reshape all the jewelry. Yuji is excited and can't wait to see what Gagel will make. The next day, Gajeel makes an armor for the wolf and another for the slime. The wolf experiences the power of the magical armor, and Yuji notices that the wolf's speed has increased several times, which will help him move and travel. Even the movement of the slime has become flexible and fast. Yuji asks Gajeel about the armor's ability to withstand magic, and Gajeel replies, "Do you want to test its durability? Well, try and see for yourself." Yuji controls the wolf's magical power, increasing its strength and weight to see if the armor can withstand the magical power. Yuji finds that the armor is intact and effective, but Gajeel warns him, "Don't rush. There's still something you need to try to be sure." Yuji realizes that Gajeel is not just a workshop owner, but a professional and an expert. Yuji realizes that Gajeel means to transfer spells to monsters, so he transfers the ice spell to the slime. Everyone collides with the block of ice summoned by the slime. Yugi realizes that the armor multiplies the slime's power by about 10 times. Yugi asks Gajeel to keep what he saw as a break between them. Gajeel notes that the armor is still not enough for the slime, due to its great power that could destroy the armor if Yuji transmits more than one spell. Gagel says, "These are the best I can make with the materials I brought." Yugi asks, "Are you saying you can make something stronger if you have better materials than dragon jewelry? Yuji returns to his hotel, remembering Gajil's words about being able to make stronger armor with the fire dragon jewel. Problem is, there's no way to hunt fire dragons. The fire dragon lives inside the lava and appears from time to time, but he doesn't do anything because no one dares to splash water on him or confront him. Yuji wonders, if the fire dragon comes out of the volcano, will it affect its activity? Will the volcano become active? At that time, the slime tells him that the red dragons have come back to life and are stronger than before. Yuji tells everyone to quickly head to the volcano and look for anyone there, because it's not normal. The slime tells him that 2 people are already heading to the volcano. Yuji looks out the window and sees the volcano erupt, and a fire dragon comes out. The wolf and the slime are shocked by the enormity of the fire dragon. Yuji says, there's nothing to worry about yet, but let me know if anything new happens. Yuji asks wolf and slime about the 2 people going to the top of the volcano. They tell him that they seem to be going to the fire dragon with barrels on their backs. Yuji sends one of the slimes to follow them and relay what is going on between them. Yuji overhears the conversation between the 2 people, and one says to the other, what if our mission fails? The other replies that the people in Ordarian have assured him that the operation will go off without a hitch. Yuji wonders, where is Ordarian and who are the people they are talking about? Yuji wants to know what's inside the barrels they're carrying. He transfers the magic net spell to the slime, but the 2 people manage to dodge it. They wonder, is this just a trap set for the monsters? Or is there a wizard who wants to kill them? They decide it's just a trap because they don't see anyone around them. The 2 people continue on their way normally. Yuji decides to attack them from behind with the slime, but they hit the slime with the sword and injure him. Yuji appears to them, and it turns out that they were pretending not to focus on him. But Yuji has set a trap for them as well, as he manages to catch them with the magic net and bind them. The slime gathers around the 2, saying, this must be the tamer who was on the assassination list, but his name has been erased. Sensing that their end is near, they commit suicide by poison in the same way as the Blue Redemption Moon Gang. Yuji realizes that they belong to the gang and asks Slime to check the contents of the barrels they were carrying. The slimes are unable to determine the content of the barrels, but they get a strange feeling from them. Yuji asks them, is it the same feeling as the cursed magic stones? But they can't pinpoint exactly what it is. Yuji summons Dreyard from the forest to find out what's in the barrels. Dreyard tells them that the water inside the barrels is cursed, but it's not as powerful as magic stones, and it can't defeat a fire dragon. Its only benefit is that it will only make the dragon angrier and rage more, causing catastrophic destruction. This is what Yuji expected, as he thought they would use the barrels with the fire dragon. Yuji says that he must purify the water immediately to prevent a disaster. Everyone moves away from the barrels while Yuji transmits the curse-dispelling spell to the slime. Yuji succeeds in normalizing the water, and Dreyard tells him that she's going back to the forest. Yuji thanks her for her help, then asks the slime to keep an eye on the place. The slimes spot a large number of small dragons and sense that something is not right. At that time, the hotel manager knocks on the door of Yuji's room and asks him to leave the place and the city immediately, as it is going to rain heavily. All the residents of Bugenia City begin to flee quickly as the rainfall increases and the storms intensify. This upsets the fire dragon, and the townspeople tell each other that the dragon is angry and will burn down the city, so they must flee quickly. Yuji remembers the hotel manager's words. Never before has a fire dragon appeared in such weather. This is a cursed coincidence. The rain annoys the dragon and makes it take revenge on those around it. This coincidence hasn't happened in 50 years. Back then, its appearance coincided with the rain, and it destroyed the entire city of Bugenia with fire. We see the townspeople saying goodbye to their homes and land for the last time before they are consumed by the dragon's fire. Suddenly, the slime and wolf tell Yuji that the dragon has moved and is on its way to the city. Yuji sees the dragon coming toward the city and thinks to himself that the dragon must cross 2 rivers that separate the volcano from the city. He tells Wolf and Slime to head to the first river and see if the dragon is able to cross it. The dragon moves towards the river, and they notice that the rain has killed the small dragons, but has no effect on the fire dragon. The dragon reaches the river, and they are shocked by its size. The dragon puts his foot in the river, and all the water vaporizes and kills the fish. With all the water vapor, the slime and the wolf can't see anything. The dragon manages to cross the first river and heads for the second river. Yuji says, it's inevitable to fight the dragon now. He orders the wolf to get ready, and he can move quickly thanks to Giggle's armor. Yuji transmits a spell to the slime wearing the armor to increase the power of the spell. The slime performs a medium-level ice spell on the dragon's leg, but it manages to easily break the binding and keep moving. Yuji uses the same spell spell on the dragon's head with 10 times the power, but it breaks the binding again and prepares to attack Yuji with fire. Yuji performs the same spell with 20 times the power to resist the dragon's fire. Yuji manages to block the blow, but the dragon continues on its way to the city. The dragon reaches the second river, and the slimes feel that it is useless and that the dragon will destroy the city. Yuji tells them, no, it was just a distraction to buy time. Everyone is shocked when Yuji sees that he has been storing a large amount of water to drown the dragon. He tells them that he made magical barriers on the second river after the dragon crossed the first river. This was to collect as much water as possible and attack the dragon in case it managed to cross the first river. Wolf and Slime go to check on the dragon's condition, and Yugi tells them to be careful. When they arrive, they find him not moving and think the plan has worked. Suddenly, the dragon appears and shoots a beam of fire at them. At the last minute, Yuji manages to create a shield to protect them from the fire. Yuji orders them to get away from him quickly, while the dragon prepares to unleash an even more powerful fireball to destroy the entire city. Yuji realizes that he must use all of his strength against the dragon, even if it takes all of his energy. He remembers that he has an energy restoration potion from Dreyard, so he doesn't have to worry. Yuji performs the Curse of the Permafrost spell to counter the dragon's fire beam. Thanks to the power of ice, Yuji succeeds in draining the dragon's energy completely. The beam of ice overcomes the dragon's fire, and the dragon freezes and loses its magical power. The fire dragon gem that Gajeel spoke of appears, the sun shines again, and the storm and rain end. The slimes see the gem that appeared after the fire dragon's death, and it is the largest gem they have ever seen, bigger than the little dragons and the blue dragon. The slimes celebrate the victory, but tell Yugi about a mysterious device they don't know the source of. Before sunset, Yugi goes to Gajeel's workshop. Gajeel says that the city miraculously survived the fire dragon, and asks Yuji why he's visiting. Yuji shows Gajeel the dragon gem, but tells him that it is a rare gem found on a volcano by a baby dragon. Gajeel's assistant is shocked, as small dragon gems are not usually large. Gagel says to his assistant, it can't be from a baby dragon, it must be from, but he doesn't finish because he knows that Yuji doesn't want to spread the word and draw attention to himself. Gajeel changes the subject and asks Yuji if he wants armor from the gem. Yuji answers in the affirmative, and Gajeel sets up the furnace to make the armor. At night, Yugi goes to the Adventurers Guild in the city. Yuji asks the secretary about the city of Ordarian if she has ever heard of it. The secretary tells him that she has heard of it, but it's not a popular city for adventurers. Yuji asks why, and she tells him that it's a mysterious city with no ties to surrounding towns and villages, and that its people are always secluded. Yuji wants to ask another question, and asks the slime to show the strange artifact they found on the volcano. The secretary asks Yuji where he got it, and he replies that he found it on the volcano. The secretary tells him that it's an artificial rain machine, and that every city guild has one. Yuji asks if these machines control the weather, to which the secretary replies in the affirmative. These machines are used in times of drought, and each guild has one. When Yuji looks at the name of the guild that owns the machine, he finds that it is indistinctly engraved. Yuji remembers the conversation between the two members of the Freedom Moon Gang when they mentioned Ordarian City, and how its residents assured that the operation would go off without a hitch. Yuji suspects that the machine belongs to Ordarian. In the morning, Yugi receives the armor made by Gajeel, who confirms that it is the strongest armor he has ever made. Yuji thanks Gajeel for his help, and tells him that he will now test the armor. Gajeel warns him not to use them in the city because they are dangerous. Yuji reassures him that he will use them in the right place. Before Yuji leaves, Gajeel asks him for his name, but Yuji refuses to reveal his identity so as not to draw attention. Gajeel wishes Yuji a safe journey and warns him of the dangers, while the assistant asks about it, but Gajeel refuses to tell him anything and tells him to get back to work. Inside a magical giant tree, we see the leader of the Freedom Moon Gang performing magic spells to serve his plots against the world. The gang leader wishes for the world to be destroyed and annihilated, and for the moon to keep dragging the world towards darkness and annihilation, which will give birth to the wise men. On the other hand, we see Old Man Style looking up at the sky after the clouds have displaced the sun. We return to Yuji's story after he leaves Bugenia and arrives in Ordarian. Yuji enters the city's warrior guild, and he, the slime, and the wolf all look at him strangely. Yuji sees a board of requests from adventurers and doesn't find any quests that fit his needs. Apparently there are no new orders. Yuji says loudly to get the attention of the two people watching him. Yuji exits the guild without selecting a quest, much to the surprise of the two people. One of them says, "Strange, he walked out without picking a quest." The other says, Anyways, let's continue our conversation inside. Yuji had left slime hidden with them to hear everything they were saying. One of the adventurers recognizes Yuji and tells his colleague that he was one of their targets on an assassination list. He warns his colleague that killing him could cause them a lot of trouble and they could be exposed to the public. The adventurer points out that they've been planning for years and don't want their efforts to go to waste. He wonders why they bought the artificial rain machine, and his colleague decides to postpone any action until he informs Mr. Walter. Yuji listens to what the adventurers have to say, and then Old Man Stahl and his assistant Johann appear behind them. Yuji decides to go with Stahl to a castle in the city to ensure that no one is watching them or hearing what they are saying. Stahl reveals to Yuji that the Adventurers Guild in Ordarian City is controlled by the Blue Moon Gang. Stahl begins to recount his past with Walter, the leader of the Blue Moon Gang. Yuji asks Stahl if he only came to deliver a message from the castle, mentioning the Blue Moon of Freedom's control of the Adventurers Guild in Ordarian City. Yuji expresses his hope that they are safe, especially since the gang seems to have information about him. Stahl tells Yuji that he needs to explain his past with Walter. Stahl talks about a former group called the Castle of the Blue Moon and how he was a well-known adventurer and fighter back then. He mentions that they used to perform a symbolic ritual when a member of the group died. Many outcast and downtrodden fighters joined the group, and Walter was one of them. Walter was very powerful, welcomed by members of the group, and over time he became Stahl's right-hand man, or so Stahl thought. In reality, Walter was an ambitious person, and Stahl's presence in the group was hindering his plans. One day, Stahl received a letter ordering the Blue Moon Order to be disbanded. Fearful of losing his colleagues, Stahl did not follow through with the order. A few days later, the guild was attacked, but Stahl managed to escape while all of his colleagues were killed. Stahl realized that the message was a warning of the attack, and that the goal was to take control of the Blue Moon. Walter was the leader and planner of the attack, and he twisted the principles of the order to suit his own desires and whims. The group's new goal became to cleanse and exterminate the world, hence the birth of the Blue Moon of Redemption. Stahl clearly recognizes Walter's control of Ordarian and notes that he came to warn Yuji. Stahl receives a new message that reads, "Chaos will increase and the villain will distract people. Help the hero and good will return." Yuji asks what the message means, and Stahl replies that the villain of the message is Walter, who will add to the chaos. Stahl points out that the hero in the letter is Yuji and expresses confidence in Yuji's ability to stand up to Walter. Yuji doubts that he is the true hero, and Stahl tells him that the legends say that the hero will carry the dagger of Cathis, and only Yuji has it. Stahl tells Yuji to prepare himself for the upcoming confrontation. Johann expresses surprise that Yuji is the hero and wonders why Stahl didn't tell him everything in the letter. Stahl responds that telling Yuji the rest of the letter might cause him to disobey orders. Elsewhere, Walter receives information from one of his spies that Stahl has met someone he believes to be the hero. Walter asks the spy if this person is the hero, and the spy confirms that everything is ready as ordered by Walter. Walter orders the spies to retreat and activates a magic spell to enter a secret location. Walter discovers the full message delivered to Stahl, which includes, "Chaos will increase and the corruptor will distract the people. Help the hero and the good will return." Stahl hides the second part of the message from Yuji, which reads, "And death will be the lot of the hero's mentor." Walter is happy to know that Stahl will die for mentoring Yuji and plans to get rid of him. We find out that Stahl sacrificed his life and didn't tell Yuji the second part of the message out of fear and anxiety. Stahl intended for Yuji to resist the corrupted Yuji without feeling responsible for Stahl's life. Yuji reflects on the events and repeats, "Walter and Stahl. Now I know their story, but the whole being the hero thing is unclear to me." Yuji remembers how Stahl gave him Cathis's dagger and recalls the incident where he helped Ricardo's village. Yuji recalls his surprise when the village secretary watched the slime take the firewood out of the slime using the storage spell. The secretary points out that this ability only exists in legends and talks about a mythical monster that used slimes to transport things from one place to another. Yuji thinks that this ability might be proof that he is the hero, but decides to put off asking Stahl about it until the next day. Yuji goes to the castle the next day and asks the guard about Stahl and Johann. The guard tells him that they left early in the morning for an important mission without revealing their destination. Yuji asks all the slimes about Stahl and Johann, and one of them tells him that he has seen them. Yugi asks the slimes to follow Stahl and Johann's movements and collect any strange slimes they encounter along the way to help with the mission. At this moment, Steele and his assistant, Johan, are standing in front of an entrance cursed with a spell that prevents anyone from entering the gang's headquarters. Style uses a magic spell to break the curse on the portal and then invites Johan in. Finally, Style sees the Blue Moon Castle, which has been transformed by Walter into the headquarters of the Blue Redemption Moon Gang. Meanwhile, Yuji reports that he has found no trace of Style and Johan and is surprised that all the tamed slimes have joined his monsters. Suddenly, one of the slimes tells him that he saw Stahl and his assistant, Johan, when they entered a dark place inside a giant tree. Yuji asks him to show him the way to this place. During this time, Style and Johan are intercepted by a number of guards who are ready to kill them. Style activates the defense boost spell, giving them tremendous strength to take on the guards. Meanwhile, Yuji arrives on the scene and activates a curse dispelling spell so they can enter. Once inside, they encounter Walter, the leader of the gang, who enthusiastically welcomes Style and expresses his joy at his return. He asks him if it was the message that brought him here, pointing out the threatening phrase, "And death will be for the hero's guide." Steele responds that he does not fear for his life, but rather to carry out the message and orders, and talks about his previous refusal to abolish the group and the consequences that followed. At this point, Walter offers Steele what he came for, death. Walter orders the bodyguards to kill Style, and Style prepares to confront them with his fighting skills. During this, Yuji watches the guards killed by Style, and suddenly realizes that one of them is still alive and holding one of the slimes. By this time, Style has eliminated all of Walter's soldiers, and says to the remaining soldier, "Your combat power isn't over yet, so I've planned well for this moment." The soldier binds Stahl with a magic spell and immobilizes him with magic, and Stahl asks him in amazement, "When did you do the spell?" Johan then appears and confesses that he did the spell, and Yuji is shocked that Johan has been loyal to Walter and the Freedom Moon Gang all this time. Yuji says to Johan, "So you're the one who used me to come here?" Walter explains that it all started with a cursed magical stone that they placed in the forest to see who could break the curse and who posed a threat to them. Yuji appears, but he turns out to be much stronger than they expected. At first, he destroys the monsters they created, and when the blue dragon appears, Yuji kills it with the help of the dagger they gave him. Yuji continued to foil their plans one by one, and even when they tried to use the power of the fire dragon to destroy the village of Bugenia, Yuji was there and destroyed their plan. Indeed, it turns out that the hero is much more powerful than they thought, but all of that doesn't matter because the new message will accomplish everything they want. Style has to watch his efforts go in vain because in the end, they will succeed in accomplishing what they want and will purify the world. In response, Walter activates a spell to turn the guards into cursed monsters. Style starts to get angry because of Walter's forbidden spell that he used against them, but suddenly Yuji barges in. Yuji lets Style know that he wants to ask a question, but it's clear that now is not the right time. Johan points his spell at Style to kill him, but when Yuji appears, he points his fire spell at him, surprising Johan and countering him with a fire shield. Yuji undoes the magic rope spell Johan casts and frees the old person Stahl, thanking him for saving him. Yugi says, "You're obviously in a lot of trouble. Is it to Walter?" Stahl confirms that he is the old friend he spoke of. Walter knows that Yuji is the hero from the scripture and that he has been waiting for him for a long time. He thanks Style for bringing him, and at this time we see a purple-colored magical substance containing the magic of freedom that the gang wishes for humanity, which gives Walter the ability to control the corpses of soldiers and turn them into monsters. Walter asks the monsters to show their true power. The monsters surround the place and the wolf is frightened by their number and shape. Yuji transmits a fire spell to the slimes to confront them, while Walter and Johan head to the magical energy center. The monsters gather around them to give Walter time to execute his plan. Walter arrives at the power center and says to Johan, "This is the time that will give me the power I need." Walter sits in the chair and begins to use the magical beams to transform into a dragon, at which time Yuji and Style arrive after killing the monsters. "Think about this moment," Walter says to Style, "because then I will be stronger than any creature." His body begins to grow noticeably larger, and the wolf and slime are appalled by the sight. Before Walter completes the transformation, Yuji transfers the fire spell to the slime and hits it with a fireball, but they are surprised when Walter appears unharmed. Yuji thinks that Walter has injected himself with dragon magic, and indeed, he begins to develop dragon-like wings and hands, and his body becomes completely blue blue dragon-like. Here, Yuji transmits a spell to the slime to create a magical barrier to protect Style, and transmits a fire spell to the slime, but Walter manages to dodge it with his great speed, telling them, "Now I show you the terrifying power of dragons." In a sudden reaction, Yuji orders the wolf and 10 slimes to attack Walter simultaneously, in order to increase his chances of being hit by the fireballs. Yuji shoots a rain of fireballs at Walter, who tries to avoid them with his speed, but ends up getting hit from multiple directions due to the simultaneous attack. Despite this, Walter eventually emerges without any damage or injury, says, "There's no way weak magic like that can affect me." Meanwhile, Yuji executes Plan B, firing the slime at the wolf and activating the barrier spell to protect it from Walter. The wolf becomes loaded with the fire dragon armor, the strongest armor Gagel has ever made, and this armor enhances his strength and speed. Yuji guides the wolf and slime, and the magical and physical augmentation spell is activated to double their strength, and the wolf says, "This is the time I will show Walter my power." Walter is shocked by the wolf's incredible speed, and Yugi uses the speed to transfer the fire spell to the slime and deliver the most powerful fire strike on Earth. The wolf rejoices and says, "We finally defeated him." Yugi admits to himself the quality of the monster armor created by Gajeel. Walter reappears after losing parts of his body and pulls out the power of the monsters to heal himself. The bodies of the previous monsters disappear and their mana is transferred to Walter, shocking Wolf and Slime with Walter's ability to regenerate himself and gain mana from his dead followers. Yugi hits him again with fire, but Walter tells him, "There's no point in what you're doing." Walter continues to take the monster's energy and not only heals himself, but increases his strength even more. He gains 4 arms in addition to wings and becomes larger in size, shocking Yuji with his increased strength. Walter transmits the fire spell to a large number of slimes and hits them with fireballs at the same time. But Walter says, "I told you it's all for naught." Yuji is shocked to discover that Walter's healing rate has become faster, making him unusually invulnerable. Yuji notices the power of the dragon curse and suddenly remembers that his power center may be connected to a curse. Yuji orders the slime to hit him with a fire spell, then a curse dispelling spell, and Walter feels weakened after the curse is dispelled. Walter decides to take revenge on Yuji and eliminate him, but he is blocked by a counter barrier. Yuji attacks Walter with the magic web spell and captures him in the ceiling. Yuji hits Walter with the fire of doom, and Walter screams in pain and falls to the ground. Before he dies, Walter says, "The time has come. Whether I succeeded in defeating the hero or not, the result is the same in the end. The sage will return if you die," and Walter dies. At this moment, Style Logi says, "I have misunderstood the holy message. There's one last part of the message that I didn't explain to you. When the guide dies, the wise man returns. I thought the guide was meant to be me, and the sage was meant to be you, Yuji. But it was clearly meant for Walter, and if he dies, the legendary sage will return." The energy center then begins to pull the souls of the gang's followers, including Johan, the monsters, and Walter's body, and the sage appears. Style says, "I thought that when I sacrifice my life, you, Yuji, would become the sage who will save our world. I didn't mention this part of the message so you wouldn't have to worry about my life, but I was wrong. It turns out that the guide is Walter, and if he dies, the sage will return." Yuji asks, "Now, who is the sage?" To which Style replies, "I'll tell you what the legends say. In a distant time, a hero appeared to fight a dragon with his legendary strength, but he was unable to defeat the dragon and died before accomplishing his mission." Yuji asks, "Do you think this hero is the sage in front of us?" Style replies, "Apparently, Walter performed a ritual to summon spirits and sacrificed his own life and that of the gang to summon the sage again, so that he can fulfill his dream of freedom and wipe out all of humanity." Suddenly, the sage activates the fire of doom spell and strikes Yuji with it, but Yuji activates the counter barrier spell and protects Style and the slime from the sage's blow. The slimes are affected by the sage's power and realize that he possesses a power similar to Yugi's. They see the ground around them burst into flames from the power of the sage's spell. Yuji wonders how the sage is able to use a spell as powerful as Fire of Doom despite the enormous amount of mana it consumes. He tells the slimes to be ready to face the sage. Yuji activates a spell to double the stamina and enhance the mobility, defense, and movement of the slimes, making it easier for them to fight. The wolf and slime set off to confront the sage, and Yugi uses the transportation spell to get them to him quickly. As they approach him, the slimes hit the sage with a ball of fire, but the sage responds with a Fire of Doom spell. They narrowly dodge it, and Yuji orders them to disperse and gives them positions in the air to hit the sage with the Fireball Barrage spell. The sage manages to block them all with his shield from all directions, and hits one of the slimes with the Fire of Doom spell. Yuji hides the slime to prevent it from being attacked attacked by the sage. After confronting the Wise One and being hit by his powerful blows, Yuji ponders how the Wise One is able to use the Fire of Doom spell repeatedly and without draining his mana. He realizes that he needs a new tactic to beat the sage. Yuji gives the slime the 10 times multiplied fireball spell and aims it at the sage, and they manage to hit the sage and knock him down. However, the sage suddenly manages to appear in front of Yuji and activates the Fire of Doom spell with 10 times the power. Yuji responds with the same spell with the same power. When he looked at his mana data, it had gone negative, and he thought to himself, I barely managed to defeat him in time. The sage got to his feet, and Yuji and the slime were shocked that he was unharmed. The sage said to them, I will now grant you freedom. He shot a cursed magic ray into the sky, which spread to the area and surrounding places. The water turned the color of the cursed magic. All the monsters were infected with the curse of freedom. The dragon's eyes turned red, and the sky above them changed color to the same purple color of the freedom magic. Steel said, Do you call this freedom? The wolf and the slime were shocked, and Yogi said to himself, This is not reassuring at all. As he watched, a group of adventurers from Vistan, the first city Yuji had visited, appeared fighting a monster, but a large number of other monsters appeared, stronger than the first monster, and it was clear from the look in their eyes that they intended to attack the city. The soldiers decided to return to Vistan to fortify the city's borders and warn the rest of the people. Yuji was watching because he had left a slime there as usual. As Yuji leaves a slime in every city he goes to just in case. He transferred the fireball spell to the slime to kill the monsters before they attacked the soldiers and the city of Vistain. Here the sage looked up and said to Yuji, In the past, I was killed by a dragon that was much stronger than me, and my failure in that task caused me to feel upset and angry. I realized that no matter how hard we adventurers try to kill a powerful dragon, a stronger dragon will arise that we can't defeat. So I went back to bring freedom to the world and end people's suffering and end their lives. That way no one will suffer and we will be free of dragons forever. Yuji understood his words and said to himself, You mean to prevent a repeat of what happened to me? You want to destroy the whole world under the pretext of freedom? What kind of logic is that? Yuji said to him, If destroying the world is your goal, what is the difference between you and a dragon? The sage said to him, Be content with your lot and freedom, and struck him with the Fire of Destruction spell. Yuji activated the armor spell and said to himself, The armor can't withstand all this fire. I have no choice but to resist. Yuji responded to the sage with Fire of Doom spells as well. Style was shocked by the strength of the two and wished for Yuji to win. While Yuji was resisting the sage, the slime told him, Emergency! Monsters are heading towards Ordarian City right now, in great numbers. The look in their eyes is terrifying. They are also heading towards the city of Kilia, the second city Yuji visited after Vistan. Yuji transferred the fireball spell to the slime to face these monsters, while he fought the sage with the Fire of Doom spell and the shield spell. The sage said to him, You will never be able to protect the world with your limited power. Yuji was simultaneously performing spells for all the cities he had visited before, and said to himself, It's hard for me to fight someone so powerful and at the same time defend the cities. Seeing that his mana had gone negative, he asked himself, What should I do? At that moment, Dreyard contacted Yuji through the slime and said, The entire population of Vistain City has gathered in the square. Yuji saw the Vistain adventurers preparing to defend their country, saying, Yuji has always protected us, but now it's our turn to show him our true strength and defend our land. Dreard was preparing magical potions to face the monsters and said to Yuji, They are all ready to fight and will help you protect their city. Yugi was reassured that he wouldn't have to worry about Vistan now and told the slimes, Stay with Gale and the other adventurers just in case. We will also help them with magic spells. The slime in Kilia also told him the same thing. The leader of the adventurers, Ryard, prepared for battle, encouraging the soldiers to follow Yugi's example and resist the monsters until their last breath. The slime also relays the events in Ricardo City to Yuji, as the adventurers say to each other, Yuji helped us fight the snow and cold, and we endured the toughest period. Surely a group of monsters will never be able to defeat us. We will prove to Yuji that his efforts were not in vain, and we will defend our country with all our might. We see the chef telling them, Come back quickly, and I'll have the best recipes ready for you. The slime also relays the events in the city of Bugenia to Yuji, where all the adventurers were ready with armor made by Gagel, who told them, I want you to return victorious so that you can return these armors to me, says Gagel's assistant. This armor is one of the best because it is made from the jewels of the dragons on the volcano. Gagel was confident that they would win against the monsters because his armor had defeated the fire dragon, let alone some of the weaker monsters. Yuji felt joy and relief when he learned that the 4 cities, Vistan, Tan, Kilia, Ricardo, and Bugenia would defend themselves. He remembered his past life when he was just an ordinary employee, always working alone without asking anyone for help, and no one helped him either. But now he is convinced that teamwork is much better than working or fighting alone. Yuji passed on to all the soldiers and adventurers the offensive and defensive enhancement spell and the anti-magic enhancement spell. Gale and the soldiers with him found that their strength had increased and that they were able to defeat monsters faster and easier. Tina and Lissa also found their strength increased and improved. Wadka, the leader of the soldiers of Ricardo, found that his strength had increased dramatically. Yuji said to himself, "That's good. Now the people of the cities will be able to defend themselves easily. All that's left now is to kill the sage and rid the world of his evil." Style told him that he had received a message that said, "When the sun and the moon meet, a miracle will happen." Yuji decides to try and do everything he can and takes a mana recovery potion created by Dreyard, which can restore his energy to what it was before he fought the sage. His mana levels returned to normal. He said to the wolf, "I'll leave it to you to protect Style." Yuji does the barrier spell until he can reach the level of the sage above, who asks him, "You want to stop the path of freedom? Why do you want to save the world?" Yuji answers, "I don't know exactly why." The sage tells him, "One like you doesn't really need a reason to protect the world. I was naive like you once and fought for this world and died." But Yuji thinks back to his memories of this world, the people he knew, and realizes that his relationship and memories of these people are enough of a reason for him to protect them, even if it means his own death. The sage says to him, "Let's fight and settle this." The sage does the Fire of Doom spell 3 times at the same time and hits Yuji with it, telling him, "Keep fighting until your strength is gone. Your body won't be able to last that long, even if you get your mana back." Suddenly, Yuji appears with the Frost spell, the same spell he used against Kilia's blue dragon. He says to himself, "Is this the miracle that Style talked about in the letter?" He hits the sage with the Frost spell, causing him to fall to the ground. Yuji finds that he can use it more than once and hits the sage with it more than 10 times. But Yuji realizes that these attacks don't work against him. The sage gets angry and prepares the most powerful magic spell to kill Yuji. Yugi resorts to the dagger of Kathis that Style gave him earlier, with which the blue dragon Kilia killed him. He casts a frost spell on the dagger, and the sky turns into a sun and moon union as the message said. Yuji fights the sage with the dagger and creates a blast isolation spell to protect himself from the destruction of the sage's power. He is able to kill him, and the barrier explodes and the sage's magical power disappears. The color of the sky is restored, the catastrophe is finally resolved, and the evil is over. At night, Yuji walks out of Ordarian, and the slime asks him, "Why are you walking so early?" Yuji answers them, "I walked because the Ordarian City Guild is still run by the Freedom Moon Gang, and I don't want to draw attention to myself." Yuji asks the slimes sitting in the cities what the current news is. The slimes and Dreyard tell him that they are celebrating the victory. Tina and Lisa rejoice, and Ryard celebrates as well. In Ricardo's city, the chef prepares a feast to celebrate the defeat of the monsters and the protection of their city. In the city of Bugenia, Giggle and the soldiers celebrate their victory and thank him for the powerful armor. Slime and Yugi are reassured that peace has finally returned to all the cities. On the other side, the Ordarian City Guild leaders are talking to each other, saying that they have lost contact with Director Walter, and they don't know why. One of them says there are rumors that the ritual to summon the sage failed and Walter disappeared with his followers. And one of them says, "Shouldn't we report this to headquarters?" But the leader among them says, "It's not important to bother them with such nonsense. Anyway, the destruction of the world is only a few days away, because the purification device is about to be ready, and once it is activated, we will be able to destroy the whole world and give our world freedom. But what is important now is that we, the members of the Blue Moon of Freedom, have the goal of defeating the Black Dragon of Desolation, a dragon that the sage was unable to defeat in his first life." Meanwhile, Yuji was listening to the dialogue between them and said to himself, "Destruction device? Black Dragon of Ruin? Clearly, the Freedom Moon Gang won't stop wreaking havoc." Suddenly, they were attacked by monstrous tigers, and Yuji got up to face them. The next day, Yuji goes to the neighboring city's syndicate and hands over the wild tigers. The secretary asks him, "Where are your teammates? The prize for this mission is very large and will be distributed to you." Yuji answers her, "I always fight alone." The secretary cries, thinking that he hasn't accepted the shock of his teammates being killed by the tigers. "They're in a better place now," she consoles him, "and they must be happy that you're still alive." Yuji is shocked by her words because she took them the wrong way. The guildmaster, Migia, arrives and discovers that the tigers were killed by the fire spell. Thus, there is only one person who killed them. She reveals to all the adventurers that Yuji is the person the legends talk about, who uses slime to fight monsters with magic.